Then he proceeds to tell him his 2.5-hour tale. Meanwhile, there's a looming threat probably coming back at any minute. In any realistic situation, the captain would have been like, get to the part where I need to know what I need to do. Like, do I throw you out now? Because you got to go right now. Right now. They're going to kill everyone. And he's like, I like to hear a good story. It's like, dude, you got to go a little faster than that, man.
Welcome in, everybody, to HTGS Reviews, where we review movies and sometimes games and never books, even though we want to. I am your host, Rob Coakley, joined as always by Dave Wilkins.
Hello, Rob Coakley.
And Jesse Wilkins.
Welcome in, folks.
And today, whenever you're listening to this, we are going to be reviewing the movie Frankenstein from 2025. There's so many Frankenstein movies that I am clarifying that it's the new one that is on Netflix. Very brand new movie. If you are planning on watching this movie, this is going to be a spoiler review. So you have been warned. You know now that we are going to spoil this movie. But what we don't spoil it in is the synopsis that Dave has created with his own hand. Some say he's brought it to life. Dave, can you give us your synopsis?
Yes. Frankenstein 2025, directed by Guillermo Del Toro. A brilliant but egotistical scientist brings a monstrous creature to life during a daring experiment that ultimately leads to the undoing of both the creator and his tragic creation. So I spoiled it in the synopsis, contrary to what Rob said I was going to do. And I did that because that is actually the official synopsis. I did not create one this time because it just isn't as fun to roast a movie that I liked. And I did like this movie. I thought it was really good. It was pretty true to the original book by Mary Shelley, which was Frankenstein, the Modern Prometheus, which is, in my opinion, the best horror story ever written in history. And it was, the movie did it a lot of good grace. And while he did deviate some certain things, some which I liked, some which I didn't like, this movie was overall really well done. It was metaphysical, it was gothic, it was otherworldly, and it was all tied together in a really artistic, very well acted, well casted, well paced, beautiful movie.
Yeah. I think the two best movies we've seen in terms of just visuals this year have both been horror movies. Not that I've seen every single movie that's come out, but I've seen a lot. And between this and Sinners, I mean, have there been better looking movies? Not even just this year, but the last couple years. Like, it just visually, it's insane how good. And you're going to get that with a Guillermo Del Toro movie like that. He does visuals really well, but I think he even leveled up on this one. Like, it is just every single scene in this movie is beautiful. Like, everything looks great. Like, I did this review last week on the football show that I do, and one of my co-hosts there said you could pause this movie anywhere and probably have like a screensaver or a backdrop or whatever. Wherever you pause this movie would probably be perfect. So, and I agree. Like, it just visually, just everything about this movie looks amazing. I have so many things I want to say about it, but Jesse, do you have any opening thoughts?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Well acted, well shot. It was like you said, it was just a beautiful movie. Like, there's every scene was just the color choices and everything about it was so cool to watch. You really felt like you were in there, and it was great. And I love that we're getting back to the Frankenstein monster who turns into kind of the intellectual that he was in the book. If you ever read the book, it's just full of dialogue. And, Frankenstein over the years, especially like the Halloween version of Frankenstein, has turned into this kind of like just, the green face, flat head with bolts coming out of his neck, just like that kind of monster. And if you ever read the book, you're like, maybe in the beginning, but he turns into a really smart dude, just really smart dead dude or whatever. So it was pretty cool the way they did it. And in the beginning of the movie, when they first intro it, you get this, the scene with the boat and everything, which is frozen in the ice, and you get this monster lurking in the shadows, and he's growling almost like some sort of like a supernatural beast. And you're like, all right, here we go. It's just another violent adaptation of this creature, and we're not going to get like the deep conversations that he gets into in the original book. And that wasn't the case. So you get your violent, kind of superhuman, unbelievably strong character that can't die, and that's what you're introduced to. But then you're also introduced to why he became the way he was towards the end of the movie. So it was very cool. It was long, but it's worth the watch for sure.
It was well paced though. It had a 2-hour, 29-minute runtime, but it didn't feel like a 2.5-hour long movie. There were 90-minute movies that we've reviewed this year that felt longer than this.
Yeah.
So it goes to show that it was really, really well paced.
I could have done with more in this movie too. Like, you could have gave me another 10, 15 minutes to establish a few more things in here a little bit better if you wanted to, and I would have been fine with it. As Dave said, the pacing was great. I got through this movie. I was like, wow, that was 2.5 hours. That was incredible. Like, it was so good.
I'm glad it was a movie. I'm glad it was a movie, but it could have been a really, really, really good series, because there was enough that was forever changing with the story. It was, like this could have been an all-time great series if they had done so. But I'm fine with it as a movie, because it was great, but I'm definitely left wanting more.
You know what they could have done with it as a series? So I like it as a movie, but to your point, one of the things I really like about this movie is how they tell it in the different chapters between Frankenstein and the monster, and just how seamless those transitions are, and how relevant both of those chapters are. They probably could have done a different chapter for each of the main characters, right? Like, for each of the characters in this movie. Elizabeth, her uncle could have probably had his own chapter if we did it as a TV series. But overall, I really like the way it was adapted as a movie. And Guillermo Del Toro, he's always wanted to make this movie. This has sort of been the movie that he's wanted to make since he started, and he sort of makes it in other movies that he's done as well. But he calls, I believe I read in an interview that he calls Frankenstein his Bible, and that's why he's always wanted to make this movie. And I think he crushed it. I love a lot of the things that he did visually for it. I love some of the changes that he made. There was little things that I found out about this movie that I didn't even know. So, you guys remember the coffin that they put the mother in the beginning with that was an actual coffin that they had at that point in time, and that was created to preserve bodies longer in case they were ever able to find a way to bring people back to life. That was the whole purpose of that coffin. There's so many little things throughout this movie that you can pick up on. Some are like really in your face, but some are not. And I love how we get the juxtapose of those two things, where here's something right in your face, but here's something in the background that is just as equally as important to the meaning or the metaphor that we're trying to show you.
Yeah, there's a lot of Easter eggs that you can actually go back and kind of find. And like, for instance, one of the dresses that Elizabeth wears is actually, the print on the dress is actually a brain scan, which you probably wouldn't notice unless you really look at it.
Really?
And there's stuff like that all throughout the movie, in the costume design, in the background, in the set designs. There's a lot of stuff that just are like kind of like sci-fi related and related to, brain scans and neuroscience and things like that. So there's a lot of little things in there that you go and pick out. But it just goes to show how much thought was put into this movie. And Rob, going back to when you said that Guillermo del Toro, one of his favorite movies was, or one of his favorite books was Frankenstein. He says he had two favorite stories that he loved since he was a kid. One was Frankenstein, the other was Pinocchio. And the reason that he loved those two stories so much was because each one was about a father who creates a child that he then is disappointed with. And then the the creation kind of acts out. And obviously these are two totally different movies, but I've never heard them compared like that. I was like, oh shit, that's actually a good point.
Yeah, I never picked up on that. I mean, who's sitting here comparing Frankenstein and Pinocchio a lot? I mean, that's where you get this creative mind of Guillermo Del Toro. So yeah, I see it now that he said it, but I would have never in a million years put those two movies together for those purposes.
Yeah, I had immediately picked up on like and I don't even know what the meaning actually was. I'm sure there's something behind it. I'm sure people have looked into it, but the standout blood red that was in almost every scene, where you have the super blood red gloves, you have the I think it was his mother who had like eaten a piece of cake or a piece of meat or something like that, and the blood was dripping down. Just the reds really stood out in certain scenes. And I want to say, like I said, I should have looked into the actual meaning behind it, but I like to guess. I like to try to figure these things out for myself. But I think it goes back to like that recurring nightmare sequence with the statue that's very red as well. And but you'll notice if you go back and look through pictures and videos and stuff like that, there's like just the standout blood red that they kept going back to in certain scenes that I think must have meant something, because they made it stand out visibly in almost every single scene. Just something was very, very, very blood red. So it was pretty cool.
Yeah. That scene was pretty interesting. I feel like there's no definite. I'm talking about the scene where you have like the weird angel that keeps kind of popping up, and it pops up in moments of death. It pops up, I believe, the first time when his mother died, and I believe it popped up again when he created the monster from the dead body parts. So I definitely think it symbolizes creation from death or something like that, because it sort of had like an angel of death vibe to it.
Yeah. I mean, the scenes are countless. You could actually just kind of go through and find them all over the place. But even if you go to the scene where he goes to the field with all the dead soldiers, they're all red coats. So this the only color that you get in that scene is the dead soldiers wearing the red coats. And of course, he's also wearing a blood red scarf in that scene as well. So it's really the only color that you get in those scenes. Also, the scene in the beginning, back before his mother died and he was a kid, she's wearing this ridiculous red dress with this long flowing like veil that she has over her face, and it's just everything is blood red that she's wearing, and it's very symbolic of the statue that keeps appearing in his nightmares.
Did you guys catch that Mia Goth played both Elizabeth and the mother?
Yeah,
I mean,
which is
classic Mia Goth, right?
yeah, just has to do multiple characters. She was great in this movie. I think the entire cast was great in this movie. I thought my biggest complaint for this movie was going to be the performance of Oscar Isaac, because I wasn't connecting with it in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And then as the movie progressed, like I sort of got what he was doing. And by the end, I was like, he just absolutely crushed this role. But I thought he was a little too much in the beginning. But it was so important for his character to be that way. Like it just, he was
supposed to be
portrayal.
Yeah, almost like a narcissist, self-absorbed, isolationist, and just he ends up being the reason that the monster was the way the monster was, right? And there's that classic like, oh, Frankenstein is not the monster, but Frankenstein is the monster, And in this movie obviously captured that pretty nicely. But I think the way that his character was portrayed really did highlight that precisely. Everyone was great in this movie, and it was such a good cast. Mia Goth was phenomenal. Oscar Isaac was great. Jacob Elordi was great. What's his name? Christoph Waltz was excellent.
But Christopher Waltz he's great. Just amazing. But yeah, he was great as well. Yeah, it was. I mean, we got Tyrion Lannister in the beginning as the father.
Oh, that's right. Charles Dance.
Charles Dance.
He's also so good at everything he does.
Yeah, just played it perfectly. And man, all the metaphors just start right at the beginning. The father that's disappointed in his son, he's perpetuating that later in the movie as well. Just becomes his father. We get that whole thing. He's constantly drinking milk. So mother's milk, the loss of his mother. Like there's that whole thing there with that as well.
Good catch.
Yeah. And then there's the one that's sort of like right in your face when he first brings the monster to life and the sun's rising up and they're having a conversation about the sun. It's actually a huge metaphor for his son and like how it's beautiful and all that stuff. And it comes back at the end of the movie as well. Like I just, all those, like, again, some of this was in your face, some of it wasn't. I just really enjoyed the way that they layered their messaging throughout this movie.
Because there's been so many adaptations of Frankenstein where you root for the doctor and not the monster, right? And in this one, it's like you're almost looking at him like you feel bad for him, right? He's like an abused child with an abusive father, and you're like, I'm rooting for the monster here. I'm not, So he was more likable, Okay, so just to go back to the red thing that I was talking about, just to pivot, sorry. If we go back to that, it seems that the red was for like loss. So when you see that, it was some moment of loss. So you can go back to the battlefield. You can go to the moment where he loses his mother, kind of like impending doom. But there was other ones as well. They used gold for like mastery and hubris, and the green that you saw a lot as well, especially with the big tubes of whatever in the world were in those big tubes. But the green, which you got a lot as well, that was for rebirth and illusion. So you got a mix of all of those. But the one that stood out to me mostly was the red, and you also got the green as well.
Yeah, the colors were vibrant all throughout this, and you know that it was all intentional and deliberate from Del Toro.
But it all pivoted around Victor in the movie, and it was symbolizing kind of his psychological unraveling, if you will, and it just kind of showed up in different scenes, which were super important. So it definitely was there for a reason.
Yeah. I also like the way that they told this story, and the whole boat thing didn't happen in the book, right? I haven't read the book since high school.
No, it did.
Oh, it did.
It started out the same as it did in the book.
Yeah, a lot of the book took place in like this snowy setting up north, where basically the monster ran off to and Victor chased him to.
Gotcha. So I really like the way that they told the story between doing the chapter for Victor, doing the chapter for the monster, and doing it by explaining everything to the ship captain, because it's more pivotal than I think some people have picked up on, like what that whole thing comes around to at the end and why they did it that way, and showing rebirth, showing change, showing how to be, showing hubris, as you were pointing out, Jesse,
right?
Like cautionary tales, like basically the monster, although he's always going to be viewed as a monster, he can still do good in this world, and he could turn somebody's life around. He literally turns the ship around for the captain to get out of there. So
sure. However, I will push back a tiny bit. While this was great from a storytelling perspective, the whole "let me tell you my life story" to the captain thing, due to the circumstances of an undying monster coming back at any second to murder everyone. This monster at this point in the story, when he sits down and when Victor starts telling the captain his life story, the monster has already killed like 10 people at least, and he's still roaring off in the distance like he had fallen through the ice or whatever. But Victor had told him before he even started telling his life story, like, it can't die. He'll be back. He wants me. Okay. Then he proceeds to tell him his 2.5 hour tale. Meanwhile, there's a looming threat probably coming back at any minute. In any realistic situation, the captain would have been like, get to the part where I need to know what I need to do. Like, do I throw you out now? Because you got to go right now. Right now. They're going to kill everyone. And he's like, I like to hear a good story. It's like, dude, you got to go a little faster than that, man. But
yeah, but
it worked out from a storytelling perspective.
You're also probably like, I agree with what you're saying, but also let's take the shock and awe element of it, where this giant monster that's been attacking you just comes in and he's talking so eloquently. You're like, what is happening? Now I need to know what this guy is going to say, because I've never seen a monster like
this.
Sure.
But the monster didn't come in and start speaking eloquently until the end of the movie.
That's like, my point.
Like, but I'm saying
from a bear basically to like Shakespeare.
Yeah, exactly. Which I'm fine with. Again, like it is what it is. You got to kind of separate yourself from the reality of the situation. But if you're the captain, if I'm the captain, if anyone's the captain, you're gonna be like, hurry it up. Cut to the end. Cut to the end. We have a looming threat to deal with right outside.
What did you guys think of the character design of the monster in this movie?
I didn't love it,
I didn't love
to
it
be
either.
honest. I thought it was weird looking. He looks kind of like the creature in the end of Alien. Romulus was about to sing a Tool song.
Was it Romulus or Prometheus? What was it?
Well, both, sort of.
Oh, was it this? Okay, I never saw Romulus. So
Yeah,
Romulus was the newest one. No. What was the newest one?
Romulus
it wasn't
was the
Prometheus.
newest.
No, Prometheus was like 2012, I think.
Well, they had the hybrid creatures in Prometheus that looked like him also, but that one creature at the end of Romulus that Rob hated, it kind of looked like that.
Yeah, did hate that.
Yeah. I will still watch that movie, but it was like so in Prometheus, like, dude was jacked. He was like a jacked, Q-tip, and wasn't as jacked in this movie. But I actually didn't love the design in this one. I thought it should be a little more grotesque. But
I do wonder if it's deliberate though, because the Frankenstein monster is actually originally called Prometheus, and it was named after the Greek story Prometheus of Prometheus went and stole fire from the gods and used it to create his own. And he was punished for eternity. And Frankenstein did the same thing. He was punished for playing God by having his creation kill his whole family. So I do think that it could have been this Prometheus design where it comes in. You see it in Alien, it looks like that, and you see it in this movie where it looks like that. I do wonder if there's something there connecting the two.
Yeah, I didn't hate it overall. It was fine. Again, I'm with you guys, maybe a little bit better. The worst thing I ever saw though was somebody made a meme. Do you remember the Somebody That I Used to Know music video by like Gautier or something?
Yeah.
I do.
And I just saw someone slap Frankenstein 2025 over a still shot of that. And I was like, yeah, kind of does look like the monster. but it overall, I was fine with it. I liked everything in this movie. Like I liked the backstory of the monster with the blind man. I thought that was done really, really well.
Oh yeah, that was good.
It was done almost as well as when the blind man was played by Gene Hackman in The Young Frankenstein.
Yes.
Almost. Only problem, because I don't have a lot of issues with this. Only problem with that whole storyline was you got some bad CGI wolves. And there was the only CGI in that movie that I was like, that is remarkably bad compared to the rest of this movie.
No, there was a couple of spots where I noticed there was some CGI that I thought was not up to par for Guillermo Del Toro, who I think is one of the best visual artists in the horror genre. Look at Pan's Labyrinth, even Hellboy. But there were some scenes in this one where I was like, dude, really? Like,
yeah,
the wolves was one. Even that Angel of Death a couple of times was like, it just doesn't look good.
Yeah, I didn't love it. I understood what it meant to the story and how important if it even was the Angel of Death. Wasn't that Gabriel? I'm not even too sure. But it was, there was some moments where I watched it with a wife and we kind of looked at each other like, they could have done without that. So.
Or just done it better. Also, the
wolves are tough, man. Like, I don't know if I've seen a movie that has actually nailed a wolf properly.
Yeah, just use real wolves.
Yeah, just let them attack them.
Yeah.
Bleed for your art.
Yeah, come on.
Yes.
Well, Jacob Elordi, they didn't really have to make him much bigger because that dude's enormous in real life. I believe he's like 6'5" or 6'6" or something. So
he's a big dude.
He could probably take a wolf. But aside
the statue, funny. I just looked it up, but the statue is both actually. So in his childhood, he looked at it as a guardian angel that was protective and he even was praying to it. You saw that. But after his mother's death, the statue began appearing in his nightmares as a dark angel, that's when it turned more red and everything. So we were both right.
Yeah, I like when we're both right.
And actually, this is interesting. It says that the creature himself was deliberately designed to evoke statue-like quality. And so they did this on purpose. They were aiming for an alabaster, marble, newly sculpted aesthetic, which was why, he had the pale skin because he was a dead person, but those lines that you got, they were meant to be inspired by 19th century classical statues. So they want him to look like a newly minted work of art brought to life. So the statue thing kind of was pretty important in this movie.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Makes
Still.
more sense.
Still
didn't love it.
Yeah.
Still didn't love the look of it, but it was whatever. I give it a pass. I think towards the end, also when he grew hair, it looked terrible. I don't know if he was like wearing. I mean, it was obviously a wig, but I don't know if the character was supposed to be wearing a wig or if he was supposed to have actually grown hair at that point. But it looked really bad.
I think he grew hair because I think they were showing that he's regenerating.
Right.
So
But it also didn't look good. But I liked his costume design. I thought it looked cool. I liked the idea if he just grabbed a coat from one of the dead soldiers and started wearing that. It happened to be an awesome looking trench coat. So I didn't have a ton of problems with his overall look towards the end of the movie because I thought he looked creepy enough and less alien-like towards the end.
I agree.
I thought there were some great shots of him, like where you just saw like the glowing eyes and stuff towards the end of the movie. I thought some of those shots were really well done.
I agree. Despite some of the bad CGI scenes, there were some really good practical effects in this. And one scene in particular that I absolutely loved was when he was presenting the monster or the idea to the room full of people in that circle.
It was awesome.
It was such a good scene, and when that thing comes to life, it was very scary. It made me jump. It was so good.
Yeah,
might have been one of my favorite scenes in the movie.
It was terrifying, just hearing it struggle for air and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was a terrifying scene.
That felt like Del Toro to me. The CGI was a little bit disappointing, but that one was like, here we are. Here we go. That was a great scene.
The other relatively not great CGI was when he blew up the factory. The explosions weren't great, but it still had some good moments in that.
The gore was incredible in this movie.
Oh, it was great. And it was like spaced out enough and didn't linger on it enough where it would like gross you out if you're not into that sort of thing. So don't look at this movie as a gory movie, despite the fact that they are maybe somewhere in the middle, but they are dissecting bodies and putting together Frankenstein as you would expect in a Frankenstein movie. But
the tone of this movie was so deliberate and it made you almost forget how violent of a movie it was, which makes the violent scenes hit that much harder. So it really is just the tone and the pacing of this movie really tied everything together perfectly. So it's like you're watching this brutal movie that you don't even realize you're looking at it more of as a work of art than you are as, something like Terrifier, right?
Right.
Exactly.
Where you get like desensitized to it because it just happens constantly. And I don't hate those movies either. Right. Those movies can be fun. But to your point, Dave, when it happens in this movie, like your attention is drawn to it.
Yeah, it's more impactful.
Yeah. From the Christoph Waltz fall, when he sort of bites the bullet there. And I'll say, if your whole plan is to get your brain embedded into this figure that he's trying to bring back to life, let's not wait till the lightning storm. Let's have that conversation the day before at minimum, maybe a few days before.
You might want to chat about it a little bit before you dump your life savings into this and leave nothing for your family.
Yeah, I understand you might not want to lead with that, but maybe don't wait until the lightning storm.
Yeah. Let's figure that out a little bit sooner before because was he going to have time to put your brain in the head, even if he could do it, which he couldn't because of your condition?
Right.
Yeah. Mia Goth is phenomenal in this movie as well. I really like what they did with the Elizabeth character. They definitely fleshed her out a lot more than other adaptations of this story. Gave her a little bit more to do, made her a little bit more meaningful in it. So I enjoyed that change as well, giving her just so much more stuff to work with than just being like one-dimensional.
Yeah. There were some pretty good changes that they made to this movie, deviations from the book. For instance, Elizabeth's character in the original story, she was his stepsister, I believe, and he was engaged to marry her. And they changed that for possibly obvious reasons in this movie. Mm-hmm. They also made the brother, who was like a 6-year-old in the book, they made him older, and the fiance of Elizabeth. So there are a few changes that I think worked out pretty well. And then there were a few changes that they made that I really didn't like. And the main one for me is the biggest negative I have for this movie, and it's the ending, which we can talk about unless you guys wanted to get into some other stuff first.
No, we can hop into that.
Cool. So what I didn't like about this movie was they stripped the moral ambiguity that the book had, that made for a really dark, almost cliffhanger-like ending that really finished like a horror story. And it was one of the best. It's just laid the groundwork for every horror story. And I really feel like it might have even set the groundwork for your horror story shouldn't have a happy ending. And they completely stripped that from it, right? You had, in the book, you had the monster kind of went away into the darkness. You don't really know what happened to him, but he was a murderer at that point, and he was a true bad guy, or at least morally ambiguous. Whereas in the movie, they kind of bundled it all together like a perfect little Hollywood happy ending, which I really didn't like. It made for a nice story ending, but it didn't make for a good horror ending, which I think totally missed the mark for me, and massive points off from me at least.
Yeah, same. He forgave him way too fast. The monster forgave Victor way too fast. He was just like, you know what? Yeah, all right, it's fine. Like his whole life goal for like the last, I don't know how many years this was supposed to be, was to go and I don't know, like he just murdered a whole bunch of people on this boat just to get to him. And then he gets in there and Victor's like, you know what? I'm sorry, bud. He's like, you know what? It's all right.
I don't completely agree. I think the way that they did it, it made more sense, right? That the creature got what he wanted, and you did have that sort of.
I don't think he got what he wanted. I think he accepted that he wasn't going to get what he wanted, which was a companion.
He got what
he did not get what he wanted. He wanted.
Just definitely don't let me finish my sentence and keep criticizing my idea before I finish saying it. He got what he wanted out of Victor in that moment, which was what the story kind of built to. I get he wanted the companion that he didn't get, but in that moment he got what he wanted out of Victor, who he knew was done at that point.
Well, okay. So we're kind of saying the same thing, which was at that point he was like, all right, whatever. He's going to die anyways. I'm not going to get this. But my point was what he wanted was that for him to make him that companion. That's why he was making him chase him all over the world. And his new goal in life was make his life as miserable as possible. And then they kind of made amends at the end. So
he wanted his approval for his entire life. That was what it wanted. He all he wanted. I know he wanted the companion. He said that was part of it, but what the monster wanted was his father's approval.
He just wanted his dad to love him and have his approval. Yeah, you're right about that too. I think it's all three of those things.
But right. I don't think it's a happy ending. Like you get that resolution, but the monster goes off into the Arctic wilderness, who's always going to be alone, unhappy, and never understood, basically, is what's going to happen to him. So might not end exactly the way the book ends, of course, but I still think that you get that sense of unfulfilled loneliness that the monster is going to feel after you've grown a connection to this character. So
maybe happy ending wasn't the right wording for it, but it was definitely like a picture perfect kind of, everything kind of came around full circle and the monster walked off into the sunset.
Right. You got your closure for Victor, which again, for me, it's points off for me because at that point in the movie, I'm not rooting for Victor anyways. I'm rooting for the monster. You didn't get closure for the monster, in my opinion. Not fully.
Right. Well, I think the underlying allegory for this movie versus the book was that if you're going to create something, you can't create something and abandon it. It's sort of that deistic idea of you want to create something, or you don't want to just create something and abandon it. You want to create something and then have compassion for the thing that you created rather than just letting it fester. And right. I think that's why it kind of worked in a whole nice little tightly tied up bow at the end versus the original story where you have a monster that was born that had complete morality. And as it experienced society and humanity, it decayed into something evil and went off. And you had that morally ambiguous ending that I really liked in the original. And it was completely devoid of that in the movie.
Agreed. All right. Well, if you haven't seen Frankenstein yet, we just spoiled it for you, but still recommend that you go see it. let us know in the comments what you thought about it. Shall we hop into some scores, gentlemen?
Yeah, let's do it. Dave, I'm
Yeah.
curious what your score is after that end rant.
I have this at a 4.7. There's a lot about it that was really good, and my issues with the ending weren't enough to make it like a major problem, but it would have been a 5.
Jesse?
I got this. I wanted to give it like a 4.7, 4.8, but I'm gonna keep it at a 4.9. I mean, like there was little issues with it. Again, I could have also used like a more eerie ending, similar to the book, like you said. But I'm okay with movies taking a little bit of liberty and shaping it their own way. I thought just overall the look of this movie, the acting in this movie, the score, the just the way it was shot, everything was so good. It would have been a 5 again. Some bad CGI that is inexcusable in a movie like this because you have so much good CGI. So I think they could have nailed down a little bit of that, tightened up the ending a little bit, and I think creeped up the monster just a tiny bit more, just because I think it's not necessarily that it was scary or unscary. It was just kind of awkward, like kind of unsettling. You're like, I'm not creeped out by it at all. I'm not scared by it at all. But it's also, I don't know, somewhere in the middle. There was just scenes where he looked just kind of like a Halloween mask. So had they nailed that down a little bit more, I think it would have been an easy 5 for me. But I don't really have anything to pick at other than, those few things. So 4.9 for me.
This is a 5 for me.
Nice.
I'm going to give it a 5. I liked everything that this movie did. I liked every shot in this movie. I liked the nuances that they put into some of the stuff they were trying to put in your face, not put in your face. The things that the CGI was like whatever to me, because it was never lingering. Like it just didn't sit with you the whole time. The gore was great. The acting's phenomenal. The score was awesome. The set design was incredible. Like this movie has everything I want. I feel like the only thing that was going to detract from it for me was Oscar Isaac's performance, which I thought by the end was incredible. I went on the journey with his character, which at first was like it felt off, but then just like he just takes you on that ride through it. So I just to not give it a 5 would be disingenuous on my part at this point in time. So I'm going to give it a 5.
I respect your 5.
Absolute banger of a movie.
Yeah. So you should definitely go see this if you haven't seen it. As Jesse said, leave your score in the comments. We want to know what you thought of this movie. We have not picked our next movie as of this moment, but I'm hoping it's something bad because we've done some very good movies lately and we're due to watch something terrible.
There's the new Hell House LLC Lineage, and there's also, which we haven't done yet, is 28 Years Later. So we could pick one of those two.
Or we could do Troll 2.
What is that?
What is Troll 2?
Yeah.
It's the second Troll.
Oh my God, we're doing Troll 2. That's the movie.
Okay. Do we need to see Troll first?
No. And we'll explain why when we do the review.
Oh, I know what you're talking about now. Yes. Okay.
Beautiful.
Let's do Troll 2.
Why not?
All right. Troll 2 is our next movie. We did it right on the spot here for you guys. We'll see you next time here at HTGS Reviews. Peace.